Boris Nemtsov, RPR Parnas party member, on the 26th of February 2015, he took part in the press conference. On the 27th of February, he was assassinated. Sometime later, when Putin is not around anymore, and we'll have a recording of today's meeting, I would be very curious to look at you when you listen to this recording again. Replacing TV. No censorship. I have no doubt about professionalism of the sociologists. Nemtsov is talking about a sociology survey with the question, which opposition party do you trust? So this informational terror, infinite lie, and manipulation, because of all this, public opinion is distorted and is far from the truth. And the main manipulator, named Putin, he consciously brainwashes the Russian people. And this survey demonstrates in full what he has done to the people's mind. Informational terror is a crime, and of course, he will be liable for humiliating people like this, especially for this infinite lie and manipulation. What we see in this survey reflects what people see on TV. High ratings of so-called parliamentary, so-called opposition parties could be explained because these parties are supporting Putin's policy. That's why they have access to propaganda means, and they use it. And actually, they're doing the same as Putin does. They are brainwashing Russian people. So therefore, they have this access to propaganda means. So there is no surprise. On the other hand, low rating of non-systemic opposition and the only opposition, because opposition, these are the people who are against the political course of the power. And of course, this iPhone boy is not the one who is determining the policy. So those who are in true opposition, they can't do much. And this funny proposal to make a coalition government with Putin, that's just ridiculous. And certainly, there's only one person in the country that solely determines all policies, and this is Putin, of course, not Medvedev. And Medvedev, managed to bury his own project, which is Skolkovo, something that he tried to create as a Silicon Valley. And so all these ratings, they're handmade, high ratings, I mean. So if non-systemic opposition had access to all means, so the sociologists would see a completely different picture. So what is principle for us, for the non-systemic opposition? Our main demands, these are demands that we were going to the rally on March 1st, 2015. And I know that people support these demands. Brainwashing people and saying that corruption is good and the war with Ukraine is good is pretty hard, even for such a powerful propaganda machine that Putin has in comparison to what Goebbels had in Germany. When we look at the survey on Ukraine, and there's a very interesting footnote here that people don't understand what does it mean to stop the war and aggression action towards Ukraine. This is what sociologists identified. The thing is that Putin started the war with Ukraine in 2014 when he annexed the Crimea. He illegally moved the troops there. He promotes hatred, and he's fully liable for the slaughter between Russians and Ukrainians. And of course, he will be liable for that. But they don't say a word about it on TV, and they show it in such a way as if there is a civil war with Bandera supporters with the Russian world. And all this lie. We know about the graves of the soldiers. We know what he does in order to promote the war. He's fully liable for killing 5,000 people. And talking about peace, of course, all people are for peace. They just don't understand it because they're watching TV and they don't quite understand who is the aggressor and who started the whole thing. And the task of the opposition is to explain all this, and it's not easy. And one of the examples of such brainwashing we've heard here today at this table, when they say that the fascists and Bandera supporters who came in power in Ukraine. So here we have representatives of Russian parliament at this table. So I'm going to give you a couple examples so that you wouldn't be believing the lie that Putin is spreading across the countries. In Ukraine, they had presidential elections in May of 2014, and there were representatives of so-called Bandera supporters, this is Yarosh and Tigny Bok, one from Svoboda party, the other one from Pravy Sector party. These two guys together, these two parties, they had less than 1.5% of votes for these presidential elections. Just know that. A candidate from the Ukrainian Jewish Congress, Vadim Rabinovich, he had more than 2% of votes. In other words, twice as many as those nationalists. So when they had elections in May, Pravy Sector, this nationalistic party, lost the election, and Svoboda party that was in Ukrainian parliament also lost that election. So that's why when we hear these words that fascists and Bandera supporters are in power in Ukraine, this is a lie, and Putin communicates this lie. It's just simple lie. Yes, those guys, the nationalists, they were at Maidan rally, but they were not allowed to run the country. And of course, the purpose of real opposition is to communicate truth to the people and to explain to the people that Putin started the war with Ukrainians, with our brothers, and he actually pushed Ukraine to Maidan rally. He's fully liable for that. It's very difficult actually to communicate the truth to the Russian people. I wasn't surprised with the numbers that we saw about how well people are informed about the rally that will happen on March 1st, especially among Muscovites. 75% of Muscovites didn't know about the rally, only 25% knew. We tried to communicate about it on the internet, to inform people about the march. It's not enough. There are some new events that happened. So now they have censorship on Echo of Moscow radio station. And it's actually quite incredible what they use on that radio station. Those advertising recordings that we have on this radio about the rally, so they just banned them. So the editor-in-chief want to run those videos and recordings, but the owners of the radio station banned it. Even the banner that we wanted to put on the website, they are prohibiting it, and we are talking about possibility to put it on the website for 4 days. So the regime is extremely afraid of any protests, and they're doing everything to shut us up. And sociologists, they showed on this survey another distorted perception of the leaders of systemic, non-systemic opposition. This is what they do with propaganda, a cynical propaganda and scummy propaganda, and they use it against real opposition. But this fake opposition that is in the parliament, and they support the authorities, so they don't experience any police pressure or law enforcement pressure. And in the eyes of our naive citizens, they probably look good. Why I think this is all fake? Not the sociology, but the public opinion. So it will turn around immediately, 180 degrees. It's like any lie does. In 1930s, the Germans, they were absolutely bewitched by Hitler. The same going to happen with Putin. Now Germans, they hate Hitler, and the same will be with Putin. People will hate him. Some people may think it's unpleasant to hear what I say, but sometimes later Putin will not be around and will have the recording of today's meeting, and I will be very curious to look at you when you listen to this recording again. Deputy of the Russian Parliament. And as we said, I'm very much against what they're doing in the economic sphere. I'm talking about the government work. Well, this is Putin who does that, Nemtsov says. So you're against Putin. So Boris, you were in the government. You were the first deputy of the prime minister. I worked in the government, and those guys were just gophers, and they didn't know what they were doing. See, we have democracy. People say what they say. So you're in one situation, I'm in another situation. I am in Russia. And where are you? I have no idea. This is what Nemtsov says. So just let me finish what I am saying, and then you will continue. The government that is working today, we have great doubts that they will be able to lead the country out of this crisis. So my party, the Communist Party, is against it. Nemtsov. Often I talk to representatives of parliamentary parties, and I'm really surprised with the cowardice and hypocrisy of them. So don't say that. We don't have any government. There is Putin who runs everything, and he decides whom he's going to give the loan, whom he's going to not give the loan, what state-owned company to help, and so on and so forth. What exchange rate the central bank will be supporting. I was in the government, in Yeltsin's government, and Yeltsin, because he was sick, he couldn't control the government. That's why we had independent government. And I know what's going on now. Those guys can just say a word without Putin, none of them. So why are you making this theater here? So whomever you put there, Zyuganov, Zhirinovsky, Mironov, all those leaders of the parliamentary parties, they're not going to do anything. So why are you lying to yourself and to the people? Listen. So I'm not going to grab the power, so don't worry about it. So I'm not going to hurt you. You're not Zhirinovsky. Besides, we're not going to be throwing glasses at each other. So, by the way, people, according to this survey that we're talking about, at some sensory level, they can understand that the government doesn't do much. That's why they're not asking for resignation of the government, anything else. People understand it well. Who makes decisions and why? Putin and his cronies, they will be manipulating people's opinion in order to put the blame for prices rise and many other things, and the poverty of people. They'll find scapegoats, and using the parliamentary parties, they will say, so because of Nabiulna and Ulyukayev, we have all these troubles. Putin is solely responsible for the crisis, and I'll explain you why. It's the first crisis in Russia, while everybody is growing. The United States, China, Japan, Germany, everybody's growing, except for Russia. That's exactly how it is. It's just like that. And one more thing, $60 per barrel today. And when I was the minister, there was $10 per barrel. We have pretty high price for oil. The net cost of oil production in Russia is $15. $60 is good price. And if they didn't steal, if they didn't spend the money on the war, if they didn't spend the money on these countless bureaucrats, and they wouldn't raise their salaries, I think we would have pretty good situation. Don't tell me about the oil prices. I know what I'm talking about. So that's why when they tell us, let's replace someone, let's change somebody, well, let's lie to the people. And I remember how Zyuganov, the head of the Communist Party, how he was afraid of being a president. Zhirinovsky, the same thing. He is cynical. And he knows that he can't take responsibility from the country, and he's not going to go to the government. The only position he can take, this is the chairman of the fishing committee. Here's the main problem. Everything is based on lie, on cynicism and manipulation, on total lie. It has never been like that in the history of Russia. And what I hear now, these are echoes of manipulation, lie, and cynicism that's been imposed on people for the last 15 years. Maidan rally, and they say this Americans who made it up. No, it's not Americans. This is thief and swindler Yanukovych who triggered it. And of course, Americans, they're supporting it now, but Yanukovych was the one who triggered the rally in Ukraine. And people don't say about it a word about it here in Russia. And we could have done it quietly, and everything would be great in Ukraine. It started like a carnival. People were singing songs, and rock bands were having their concerts there. But when Yanukovych decided to stop elections and started using police force against the people, so then there was a bloodshed. And when they're telling us those fairy tales about Maidan rally, so that's all lie. And I'm asking you, have you tried to give 1 million to distribute it among people? How can you do this? You need to have special machines in order to do that. So, just learn how to tell the truth. Don't lie here. You're not in Duma right now. Nobody's going to show you anywhere on any channel. And I have to say that Duma, Russian parliament, this is like a spawn of cancer. And your master trained you to lie, and you cannot do it. But take into account that he is an old man, but you will have to go on living, and you will have to talk to your children and grandchildren, and you'll have to explain to them what you did to stop the war with our brothers in Ukraine. So we are listening to Boris, but we won't comment on this. Deputy of another parliamentary party. She says, you are unanimously voting in the government. Yes, unanimously, but this is communist Rushkin. So, but you support the annexation of Crimea, you support the war in Ukraine. Listen, in our agenda, we did not have supporting the war in Ukraine. We never had it on the agenda, and we never voted for it. It wasn't there. So there was a question about Crimea annexation.